Hello and welcome to Watches Tonight. You asked, we answered. New time slot for Europe and the Middle East. Hopefully this makes everyone happy. So, assuming you are not at some extreme GMT time zone tonight, you're watching us live. Me and Armin Johnston, we're going to be talking about the worst of watches. This is the Hall of Shame episode. We're chatting live because this show is now more interactive, less scripted, and I share your wrist chats tonight on Watches Tonight. While we're warming up, do me a favor. If you've ever wanted to see 3 short videos of the Piaget Polo 79, they're now available on my Instagram, including weigh-ins for both the white gold and the yellow gold. So check out Tim_Masso on Instagram. Viewer wrist shots. Armin, you got the wrist shots ready to go. Which ones do we have? Let's read them off.
I certainly do. We have Jess F. leading us off with the Rolls Royce and his just released Laurent Ferrier Sport Auto sports watch. Fantastic piece. Beautiful choice, Jeff.
Is that Spectre? Let us know, Jeff. I know you're in the box.
We have Eric O joining us from the North Shore of Oahu with his Rolex Datejust on Jubilee. Great pick. Great background there. We have Franchi A and his Rolex Deep Sea are at a Putacana Resort in the Dominican Republic. Another nice background.
Deep
nice
sea
blue
in a shallow
water.
sea, yeah. I can see the bottom. That doesn't count.
We have Ruben S. and Amy of Atlanta who are in Vancouver with a Rolex Cartier his and hers. Great shot. I love a good his and hers. Thank you for sharing. Is that the white gold Pepsi? It looks a little warm.
Yeah, I think that is white gold Pepsi. I can't tell if it's the blue or the black dial from that shade, but either way, bomber.
Great
By the way,
pick.
Major points for the yellow gold Roadster.
Yeah. Love those numerals. Love how it's very dashboard adjacent. Killer piece.
That one more than most even.
And we have Philip D. and his Royal Oak Chrono at the Warehouse Motor and Watch Club in Park City, Utah. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you for sending in your viewer wrist shots.
Your wrist on our list. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com to see your wrist on this list. Okay, the Hall of Shame, watchmaking's worst ideas. In the watch industry, we have many formal and informal laurels for our champions. Holy Trinity, COSC Chronometer, Geneva Hallmark, Qualité Fleurier. We've got our auction catalog, superheroes, and then we've got Souscription, which frankly I think is overused lately. But even so, for every highlight, there's a lowlight, and people in power make decisions that will often live in infamy. And they're often more fun to revisit in retrospect, like a bad celebrity breakup. We could also include Bennifer. A NASCAR pileup. There's the big one right there. And any Nick Nolte mugshot at all. And the image is seared into the eyes and the brains and the retinas of posterity. So today we explore the worst ideas in watchmaking. And this one was actually suggested by Armand. So Armand, Audemars Piguet Marvel.
Oh my gosh, I feel like this has been talked about ad nauseum.
But this is in pole position because it has to.
Without a doubt. I will say a bit morbidly, I think Audemars Piguet with the Black Panther release I don't want to say they got lucky, but they got a pass because the actor who played Black Panther did unfortunately pass away. So that watch interestingly entered a different kind of...
Is that it? That's interesting. So the 250 pieces of the Black Panther, not the one piece that went at auction, those are now considered to be more collectible, specifically because the actor died.
I don't know that they're more collectible because the actor died, but I think that AP gets a little bit more of a pass because...
Okay, so there's a sentimental attachment that makes it more endearing.
Better phrasing, thank you.
Whereas with Spider-Man, which is an ongoing, basically money sponge, there's a whole lot less soul. And by the way, I prefer Armin to Spider-Man, so let's take that graphic down. Okay, so remember back in 2021 when AP decided to hitch its wagon to Marvel's money train? Well, here's the thing. Right before that train, it seemed like a good idea at the time, that train was derailed by bad reviews, bad movies, and uninsurable stars. I mean, all the talent in the world can't outrun the tabloids. From Black Panther to Spider-Man, it was bad timing all around for an idea that would have been hard to sell at any point in the MCU's incomprehensible timelines. It was made even more challenging by the fact that only 2 years prior, Citizen, yes, that Citizen, was making Marvel-licensed Panther and Spidey watches that cost $350. And the villain of our next segment, Romain Jerome, had its own excessively expensive Spider-Man Tourbillon in 2019. Marco Tedeschi, we forgive you. Marvel, maybe not. And these AP Spider-Man and Friends watches cost over $200,000, so we're talking real money here.
And you know, one more honorable mention is the cause concept, which is the kind of Mickey Mouse adjacent figure going like this on the dial.
Yeah, that is part of the problem. Not everyone liked the figures as they were portrayed.
I'll level with AP. I think the micro artistry of Black Panther, of Spider-Man, they did a great job on it.
Yeah, they were well made.
They were very well made. It's excellent, excellent craftsmanship, and just kind of all awful everything else.
Yeah, it's like a really brilliant photographer takes a portrait of a really ugly guy. You've got this incredible execution of something that's just like genetically defective. But now, here's the thing. I would also say that between the micro engraving of the white gold statuettes, the micro painting, I actually liked the piece that they did for charity in engraved white gold.
Yes, I agree.
If this had been the only one, it might have been thought of as something that was edgy and really cool, but not exploitative.
The production of these is the Achilles heel of these. If they had made one of each, guess what? I would probably be on the other side of the fence and think, oh my gosh, that's fun, that's cool, they did it for charity, whatever they did it for, I'm interested.
Yeah, the problem was making hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yes.
Okay, so now here's a thought. Is this almost too self-aware? Like, think about this. We've convinced ourselves that Tourbillon Souverain and double Tourbillon 30 degrees from Greubel Forsey, that the Chronomètre Artisan from Simon Brett and the Chronomètre Contemporain from Bluechip, these are all very serious things, when they're really very unserious toys. And no one needs that any more than they need a Spider-Man Tourbillon. So is this almost too self-aware of AP? Does it hit too close to home?
I actually don't necessarily view it as self-awareness, to be honest with you.
Okay, so they're so oblivious that it becomes too real.
I think that they thought that the culture of the time would have accepted it at a much higher rate than it did, due to the popularity of Marvel, due to the popularity of, quite honestly, the films. And I think it was just a miss. I could be wrong in that. I am not above admitting that.
Now here's the thing. I think when they probably had this idea back in 2019, right about when Endgame was rocking into theaters and breaking records, it probably seemed like Marvel was an unbreakable blue chip property. Like, this was safer than investing in an actor because the Marvel brand was so secure and valuable and consistently successful. And as we all learned from various DCU and MCU actors, sometimes, problems arise, but with a brand itself like Marvel, they were safe. And then came Eternals, and then came Quantumania, and then came Thor 4, and all of a sudden we had bad streaming series, and the whole thing went off the rails.
And so thus begins the question of what character comes next?
I would say that at this point, they're going to step back, take a breather, and see how Fantastic Four and whatever they have in mind for the X-Men does.
If they do a Reed Richards watch that doesn't have an elastic band on it somewhere,
oh my God,
I'll actually be upset.
Can you imagine a Stretch Armstrong style band on
just a Spidell stretch bracelet?
That would be great. Or Stone Marquetry for the Thing. All right, let's read off. Edward Ledden of Sweden in the box. Arto Charles, Soma R, Mark S. from Brooklyn, Sean Hansen, Jim Millett from the UK, AD Never Calling, Winterist, Slowboy Fuel Pump, Jumbo Jet Pilot, Keystar G60, Randy S. Moto Gunner from Athens, Georgia. Man, you're in the wrist shot, so stay tuned. Perry P. from upstate New York. We got Rufino Sandeep. We got Casper and Thomas Oliver Price. And we got Kyan OC from Newport Beach, California, not far from our location, actually. We're in a place called Fashion Island. I'm almost embarrassed to tell people, where are you in Newport Beach? We're in Fashion Island.
I think it's prestigious, isn't it?
Okay, we're in Fashion.
That's right.
It sounds like a bad reality show.
I can't argue that.
What will transpire this week on Fashion Island? Okay, we got Sashi in the box. We got O'Neill M. and Spencer Chapman joining in from the great state of Texas. And Armand.
I'm incepting right now.
How's that possible? All right, guys.
I'm in the box, I'm on the screen, I'm
Neil
everywhere.
B, Dr. B, good to see you, my man. John Prosser, welcome. Okay, guys, so we are talking about the worst ideas. We talked about Spider-Man and Black Panther watches that cost as much as nice Midwestern houses in the United States. Armin think that maybe this was a little bit too conceited of them. I'm thinking maybe it was just a little bit too real, because watch collectors really don't need any of these things. So here's one thing we can all agree on: grave robbing. It's generally frowned upon, but in the watch world, Romain Jerome with the Titanic DNA begged to differ. With a tourbillon, without a tourbillon, a chrono tourbillon, it's all good. I can rob knickknacks from a local cemetery for a lot less money than this, which, in a terrible turn of phrase, resurfaced in 2007. So the idea here is that it's got metal from the Titanic. And when I shot one of these watches years ago, you'll note if you watch that video, there's no wrist shot. Now, I'm not religious or spiritual, but something about this seemed like very bad feng shui.
Now, let's unpack this a little bit. Is the metal actually from the submerged Titanic, or is it from the steel mill in which the quote-unquote supply of steel from the steel mill that the Titanic was built from?
I think it's both. I think it's both.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, I think that they claimed that there was actually like steel from Harland and Wolff's supplier in Belfast, but then they also had some excavated from the wreck. And shocker, the Titanic is a gravesite. And
again, it is a gravesite in 2023.
Again, yes, true. There's been recent loss of life associated with the Titanic. All of which means that this is in very questionable taste. So Bob Ballard, who is the scientist and Navy officer who found the wreck in the 1980s, he had a good philosophy of marine salvage. Either you do it to learn a lesson about safety that could save lives, and let's figure everything we can learn from the Titanic has been learned, or you do it because you don't know about the engineering, the science, the history, and the culture of the period. Well, with the Titanic, he made a good case that there's nothing we don't know about the ship, and there's nothing we don't know about how people lived in the early 20th century.
Very well documented.
So it's souvenir hunting, right? I mean, guys, let us know in the chat box, how do you feel about taking a piece of the Titanic or any other grave site and putting it in a commercial product? I feel like it's very bad taste.
I just watched the Netflix doc on Titan, and I could not agree more. Everything about that is in bad taste.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree, and it's easier since Romain Jerome itself is now dead. So this is a casualty on multiple levels. The meta's kind of recursive, if you will, to use a lesson from the world of programs. But what's going on here? Let's see. We got Levin joining in, we got Lars joining in, we've got Vidal joining in, and we have Cull Obsidian saying, can't wait for the Titan sub edition. He beat you to it. We got Vimal saying you can own the Black Panther AP and go couch surfing for the rest of your life. So you're saying you wouldn't wear it out. And then we've got Josh saying, I would argue that the Black Panther and Spider-Man are better releases than the 43 split. Okay. Hey, I'm not arguing.
The 43 split.
I would just say that AP in general is pretty controversial. So whatever watch they won't sell you in the dealer is probably more controversial than any of the Marvel pieces. Because
That's a hot take, though. I have to give you that. That's a hot take.
That is very thoughtful and original. Especially since you can go out on Chrono 24 and have many Marvel Royal Oak concept tourbillon from which to choose. And then we have Lars saying, just take a mini sub down and get more metal. I believe as of 2020, the UK and American governments have a treaty that protects the wreck. So you can't go further souvenir hunting, but the Titanic's pretty big, and I think a bunch of Russian salvage operations pulled up a lot of steel. So sadly, you might see stuff like this for a while. What else is going on here? A lot of Titan sub references. And then we have Whedon Watches, who puts it best, karma gets everyone. That's a bad idea. I like that. And then what else is going on? Daryl saying, you are literally asking for bad luck every time you put on that Titanic watch. What comes around goes around, right? I would also say this, because Romain Jerome itself is now a gravesite, we're never going to learn what a Lusitania DNA watch might have looked like, or what a Hindenburg DNA watch might have looked like. But hey, we'll always have Led Zeppelin. You get a lot edgier. I mean, you can get a lot edgier than these, and I'm not going to go there. And Romain Jerome probably would have gone there had it not gone out of business in 2020. Use your imagination, but this could have gotten a lot worse. Okay, Trump Kim by Moritz Grossman. So you got DJ Trump and Lil Kim spinning a single, because they only made one. It's a piece unique. This is technically known as the Meet in February, and you know so, because it's right on the dial. But here's the problem. It should be known as the What Were They Thinking?
I'm so confused by this release. You have an amazing German watch brand.
And it's a really good dial until you realize what's on the center of it. I mean, it's actually a pretty good dial by their standards.
It's a cool looking watch until you get to the engraving. And it's, you know, politics aside, I don't know literally anyone who would want this combination.
Because here's the problem. If you love Donald Trump, why buy the half Trump watch when you can have the full Trump watch?
When you can get the Trump Tourbillon.
Yeah. Get the full Trump watch, and you get a Tourbillon, and if you're a Swiss snob, it's Swiss made, and it was the most viewed show that I've put up in the last year. So I think everyone wins there. So get the full Trump watch, and then on the other hand, how many of us want the North Korean dictator following our every move? Which, if he's on your wrist, he does. You can go to North Korea and get that same treatment for a lot less money. And all of that State Department red apparently has not dissuaded, incredibly, some people from selling tours to North Korea. Guys, I don't know. You've got to be a little bit of a daredevil and maybe addled by drugs to take them up on the offer, but the offer stands, and I'm willing to bet that your money goes a lot farther in the DPRK.
I think, speaking of money, I would pay good money to be a fly on the wall in the room that this decision was made in. Because I just...
Not the Trump-Kim meeting, but the decision to make the watch.
The decision to make the watch, not the meeting. I am just so confused by a very small German brand wanting in on this.
Because there's no one German involved.
No one, no. Not even close.
So I don't understand. They also did a New England Patriots watch at one point, where they're just like sitting in Glasuta, they're like, you know what would be cool? Patriots watch. And then you come to the US and everyone hates the Patriots. And then, you come to the US and you're like, the Trump-Kim watch, right? Isn't this so cool? And people fight to the death over it. So if you want to go for the full Trump watch, that exists. And it's not a piece unique, so you've got a good chance of finding one discounted on Chrono24. And Moritz Grossman, guys, you're better than this.
So that's the punctuation of it all. It's I can make an argument for something like Sands of Time. I could make an argument for something like their, what was it, a soccer watch? Or they had the spider watch, they had the soccer watch.
They've done some weird stuff, but you can excuse it. You can
exactly.
In context.
And, just to tie something so specifically to such a specific time and two very specific and controversial political leaders is very strange for a company.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you just put Trump on the dial, you're guaranteed to sell the watch.
Yes, without a doubt.
Whereas the market for that kind of a watch in North Korea consists of maybe one person.
Well, that's the beauty of it. This watch cannot physically enter North Korea.
There you go. I guess we could send it through the Swedish embassy, which last I checked is your only U.S. point of contact in North Korea. Okay, third, Moritz Grossman needs to wait. If they really want to go all in on a Trump watch, the big one is going to be all about illegal aliens. And you know what I mean by that? Oh, yes. Not the one where you build a wall, the kind where you build a force field around the Earth. When Trump unveils the aliens and the force field, boom, Moritz Grossman, go for it. And it goes without saying, that's the one we all really want. But be careful about that, because Trump, they're also homewreckers. I hate to say it, but it's a fact, and we've known it for over 20 years. All of us remember Independence Day. It gets a lot worse from there. Okay. Viewer wrist shots number 2. Jan brings us to watches tonight in the debut of Carlo Lasch from Chemnitz, Germany. This is a brand you may not have heard of, but he's a watchmaker who you will hear of in the future. Think Felipe Pikulik, but a little bit more out there in sort of an early Stefan Kadoka sense. What else is going on? Stephen E. showcases the chronometer-certified Chopard Superfast Automatic. A great look at one of these in the wild. We don't often see them. A watch inspired by a car that gets it done on both fronts. We got Jimmy Y, who keeps it all in good taste, on the wrist and in the mouth, with a feast fit for a king. He's got his Panerai submersible PAM 1024 diving into some dumpling and noodle soup. Darth Muppet, that's his name on Instagram, with vintage Motorola and Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch. We got our analog instruments. Gus G of Athens, Georgia, rides with his Christopher Ward 12 in Nordic blue. Guys, send them in. Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com, or if you like vintage, at thewatchbox.com. The redirect will work. So you guys are saying here, we got the real A. Phil from South Chicago, Winterist, Jeff S., who's now in the box as well as on your screen, Brian Lung joining in from Toronto. We got Max saying hi, and we got Mark S. saying loose lips sink ships, and we got Neil B. proposing a Dennis Rodman in North Korea watch.
I like this. I like this idea a lot.
I think now you're on to something. Moritz Grossman, please make this happen.
Neil, good call.
We know you love American sports, so please. Okay, DC. And I cannot repeat that, but it's in the chat box for your reading pleasure. We got Growing Reality. We got Luke L. And we got Fraser saying, I see your disaster debris watch and raise you a battlefield dirt watch, Presidius Iwo Jima. Yeah, there's a really bad idea. That's up there with the Ball Normandy watch, where it's a watch inspired by the invasion of Normandy with nothing particular being donated to any veterans association. Basically profiteering on something no one should ever market. When there's a cemetery dedicated specifically to the theme of your watch, don't make that watch. All right, let's see what's going on in the box. We got Moto Gunner saying, I've never seen that show part. How much did you like the bezel bolts? Pretty cool, right? And what else is going on here? We got Dram Bam saying, Mikey from Houston joining in. And then we have Mark S. saying, it's too early for me. I can't usually make it home from work, so I won't be here live. That's okay. We appreciate your view after the fact. That's when most people watch the show. We're doing this for Europe. And I got to say, based on my Facebook group, like half of our audience is Europe and the Middle East. What else?
What are we running in terms of live?
Oh yeah, let's take a look. How are we doing here? We're at 235. Let's get that up to 300, guys. The worst of watches, and the dishonor roll continues. Let's start with Zenith. We're talking about weird politics. The Revoluzione, Che Guevara. Again, a great way to piss off everyone. Incredibly, go back. This isn't fake. We didn't make this, and it wasn't photoshopped. This is absolutely real, and at least it's not an intentional joke. So it was part of a 2015 series that included Emiliano Zapata and Simon Bolivar. And, well, I don't really understand who the target market is for this, except maybe the very upper echelons of Cuban state leadership. But Zenith, this is how you piss off everyone. And I'm guessing aspiring guerrillas and militant proletariats wouldn't want a $419,000 watch. It's also hard to imagine Western plutocrats want to display Che on the wrist at Davos, even if the underlying watchmaking with fusee and gimbaled escapement is pretty cool.
Amazing watch, very questionable choice for the case back. You know, I will give them credit in the sense that it is on the case back though. This is not front and center. This is not front and center dial. This is case back, but my gosh, what an interesting choice. I don't even know how to comment on this one.
I mean, this is something that is suitable for like a monolithic communist monument or a college sophomore's t-shirt. like that's the limit of where this should, that's like the limit of this imagery.
Perry P says, does it come with the t-shirt?
Yeah, well, I beat you to it, man. There you go. You saw that coming from a mile away. I would also say this, Che Guevara probably wouldn't have wanted this.
No, definitely not. This is fundamentally against the revolution.
I don't think he would have been interested in this.
Do you know how many guerrilla fighters you could fund with the price of this watch?
I mean, how many? I would say, I could tell you exactly, because I checked before the show, and apparently the average income on a monthly basis in Cuba is somewhere around $180, $190.
USD, yep.
Which means that after about 2 or 3 months, you've got the strap. But that's it. Now, I will also say this. As an exercise in unintentional irony, this is the all-time champion. This is like the Muhammad Ali of unintentional irony. It will never be surpassed.
Yeah, this is really, really something. And you know, every now and then you'll remember something that you forget, and this is something that I completely forgot existed. And
For a good reason.
I'm just so happy to be brought back to it because, wow.
The Che Guevara $400,000 watch is the Secretariat of irony. There is no second. It's the horse crossing the finish line by itself. First by far. All right, I would also say this, though. This is worth mentioning. This came from the highly regarded Jean-Frédéric Dufour era. So people tend to, lavish praise on the JF Dufour era of Zenith because it did land him the gig at Rolex. But I'm going to say you can't blame this one on Terry Nataf. He had nothing to do with this.
And this is such a Nataf idea. I would so expect this to be a Nataf watch.
This was right at the end of the line for Dufour. There's no way you can blame this on Nataf. So he's sitting there somewhere.
What a photo.
By the way, you can blame everything on Nataf except this. He's actually my hero.
What a photo.
I love Terry Nataf. Someday I'll rehabilitate him. Okay, here's a thought. Baselworld. When everyone from Nick Hayek to the individual collector gets angry at you, you've pissed off everyone.
Seeing Baselworld disappear, seeing what it was, and then watching it disappear was remarkable because it was the show.
Yeah, it's like watching a giant die in slow motion.
It's like watching the Titanic sink. It is something that you think, this will never go anywhere. Look at this massive piece of watch industry.
It's unsinkable.
Exactly.
And there were boats. There were hotel boats.
There were.
If you couldn't get a hotel room,
brands rented these and decked them out with brand stuff, and they invited people on.
And those were the good ones.
Yeah.
Some of them, I heard horror stories from these hotel boats during Baselworld that would rival the worst you've heard about Soviet hotels in the 70s in Kazakhstan. These things were horrors on the water. Flooding, bugs, including the bed variety. Lice on pillows, soiled mattresses, use your imagination. This was bad. The town of Basel, and I'm calling it a town because by international city standards it almost is, too small, not enough hotel rooms, not enough cafes and places to eat. All sorts of bumper pricing, Uber style, during the week of Baselworld so that they would clean you out. There was nowhere to stay, there was nowhere to eat, there was nowhere you could get a square deal, even though you had to be there as a member of the industry.
It was effectively the only thing that went on in the town.
It was such a hustle because the people who ran Baselworld, those people were charging millions of dollars for some of these brands to be featured at an event where no one really needed to attend. Because maybe 60 years ago you had to go to Baselworld to see all the new watches
and to place your orders.
Yeah. But at this point, people working off of press releases could cover Baselworld for magazines online faster than people who are waiting to get real photos at Baselworld.
This was also peak brand, what can you do for me and what have you done for me lately? So this was, Baselworld was when you would place orders, understand your allocations. If you wanted the hot new X, Y, or Z, guess what? You had to have the not so hot ABC. And there was juggling done during these meetings, and there was a lot of interesting things about Baselworld.
Yeah, bundling was a thing for dealers too. You think you have to buy some ugly ladies watch to get the Royal Oak or whatnot? Dealers had to do that too, and on a much larger scale. Baselworld was a hustle. You'd get shaken down by the brands if you were a dealer. You would get shaken down by Baselworld if you were a vendor. And if you were an individual, even though they had public days, if you didn't have appointments, you weren't getting in anywhere. You were taking a picture of a watch in a vitrine and that was it. It was awful for everyone on every level, which is why Armin talks about the sinking of the Titanic. Well, 2020 with COVID may have killed it off, but that was the moment when the ship broke in half.
That was the death rattle.
Yeah. And it was going to happen anyway, but it had been a long and precipitous decline. I think everyone in the background cheered the end of Baselworld.
I will say, actually, RS in the chat says, what is the wonders in Watches and Wonders? And, I agree with this to a certain degree because Baselworld felt a little bit more magic than Watches and Wonders does.
Yeah. Well, Baselworld was like the Geneva Auto Show. It was monumental.
It was magical. It was, the Stark Expo of watches. And I feel like Watches and Wonders lacks a little bit of that luster, lacks a little bit of that pomp and circumstance that Baselworld did. And I feel like that there's even less buzz around the releases online than there used to be, which is so interesting to me because arguably we're in a more online world.
But the flip side of that is that watch release season is now 12 months.
Is now, yes, all year round, which is another, kind of nail in the coffin of Basel.
Yeah, it's almost like if you got one Christmas present a month for 12 months instead of all of them at once, it wouldn't be as special, would it? Now someone's going to say, oh, it's a religious holiday, how dare you? We're talking about it as a cultural holiday, okay? So my point is that it's a big event. Whether you celebrate it religiously or in a secular sense, Christmas is the Super Bowl. Whereas with the watch industry, Baselworld was the Super Bowl. Now Baselworld, having been dispersed over 12 months, is one big-ish show in the spring that's further diluted by Dubai Watch Week in the fall every other year and a bunch of local shows.
Which Dubai Watch Week does have kind of some of the pomp and circumstance that Baselworld did, and for obvious reasons, it's in Dubai.
And it's better for collectors. If you're a customer, go to Dubai. Don't bother with Watches and Wonders. Or if you do, with Watches and Wonders, go to all the events outside the show. That's where you'll get the real service. That's where you'll see things and try them on the wrist. Okay, we have Spencer saying Domino's Rolex is a good nomination. I disagree because that is in on the joke. Like
love the watch.
Everyone involved in that is in on the joke and gets the joke and thinks it's funny.
And it's also based in accomplishment, which I appreciate and I love.
Yeah, you earned that watch.
You earned it, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a way for the common man who runs a franchise to get a Rolex without having to buy it outright. So yeah, I would say that is redeemable. That has integrity. Like G-Shock, it doesn't take itself too seriously. All right. Viewers shots number 3, Neil B. He's in the box now. He's on your screen, riding in his Bentley Bentayga with the Sega Hunter. I think that's the first one of those.
Yeah.
Stephen K. of Arizona lounges in the desert with his Nomos Glasuta Ahoy. Josh P. and his Sea Dweller celebrate both Milwaukee Power and Ontario, Canada. Sashi R. is a man after my own heart at London Comic-Con with his Rolex Explorer 2 Polar. And John M. joins us for the first time with his Karloff Bucher Petravi T24 GMT. Guys, send those wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the1916company.com. All right, Hall of Shame, watchmaking's worst ideas. Guys, you know what no one asked for? No one asked for watch rentals. And yet, 11 James, it happened, guys. Basically, taking something that's enduring, personal, and dear, and then making it disposable, fleeting, and worthless. Now, mainstream media and non-watch people loved the idea of 11 James. Simple premise, subscribe and get to wear an expensive watch for a short period of time. The business press loved it. It was in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. It was on Business Insider. Everyone covered this thing. NetJets founder Randy Brandoff sold it as the NetJets, or not just the NetJets, but the Netflix of watches, which was really the buzzword that everyone wanted to hear in the business press and the mainstream media. Apparently some investors also fell for the pitch because they did raise millions of dollars, at least initially. If you're a finance type or you literally don't care about watches, all of this sounds cool. Armand, why were they wrong?
It is remarkable to me that this got past the idea phase because you're right, it cheapens a hobby that is extremely personal. It makes it much more, for lack of a better word, transactional and just less special. Going through this rental system, you never envision yourself with this watch years from now. You never think, oh, this watch is special. This is going to be my X, Y, or Z watch. You always know, oh, I'm going to enjoy this for a little while and then I'm going to give it back.
Which means you care for it like a rental car.
Exactly.
Like just short of having to pay them for a repair. That's how you're going to treat it.
You know, if there's one thing about rental cars, they're going to end up in the ocean.
It's true.
If you don't understand that, you shouldn't be working at the rental car desk.
It's exactly like a Lime scooter.
But, you know, people also don't take care of things that aren't theirs. So I would never, you would have to send in a watch for service between, every 3 users through this potentially. And it's, I cannot believe this got off the ground.
And this is not like your leased white or beige Lexus RX 350. This is something that should be a partner to the milestones in your life. Can you imagine like your wedding watch and someone asks like, I guess you're going to own that forever. Are you going to give that to the kids? And you're like, nope, I'm sending it back in a prepaid shipping label in 2 months. No, that's not how it works. I mean, that moment when you're promoted and the watch on your wrist is going to be like associated with that memory for the rest of your life. No, it's not. It's going back to 11 James in 2 weeks. it just fundamentally misunderstands what we love about watches. And I don't doubt the people behind it liked watches, but their product squeezed all the joy out of the experience. And I'd say it's hard to be part of any watch community on the customer end if you have no lasting commitments or never sell watches with stories to match in your collection. And so that's how I see it. Honestly, it sounds a lot like the noise surrounding AI in the watch industry right now. Money people want it, but collectors don't. Viewer wrist shots number 4. Mark of Britain is out for a drive with the mammoth IWC Big Pilot's watch, 2 monster machines. We've got G Mood, who features the Citizen ProMaster Challenger Diver 200 meter and Pomelo Riviera. David R. of Virginia stuns with his Sartori Biard SB04E Chrysocolla dial. Guys, get that one. It's gorgeous. A 50-piece edition. Shurath S is at Seiko House in Tokyo with his Patek Philippe 5059G, cross-branding. And Matt Riggs would take us home with his incredible Audi RS7 and JLC Amvox 5. Would take us home, but we've got some fun watches on the table. So we always talk about getting the watches back in watches tonight. Armin, what's going in the box? Quick, pick up the chat real quick.
All right, let's see here. So, scrolling back a little bit. Actually, Mark S., I am amazed because I know while everything needs to be profitable, I understand that. I understand we live in a world that money makes go round, but it just seems like something that just wasn't going to work in the first place. No, that's why I'm amazed.
Yeah, you don't rent your heart out. That's how I'd put it.
We have ZR Rent My Timex, $100 per day. Hey, you're onto something with that, okay? I appreciate that.
And if you lose it, there's no like onerous penalty to be paid.
Worst idea in watches. Mainstream watch websites, could they make them more unsearchable? RS, you are onto something with this. We have seen a couple of new brand websites, which I won't name the brands.
Show more, click, show more, click, show more.
They've gone from something that you can easily navigate based off of their families, oftentimes would have pricing, to something that is a clip show, a slideshow, romanticism surrounding everything. Again, I understand it. Have it as an option on the very bottom of the site, but show me the specs, show me the original pages first, because the websites were not broken before the change.
Yeah, and you know, if you've got this sprawling, endless catalog, and your website's going to turn into a labyrinth, Blancpain, I feel like I'm navigating that website, I'm going to run into David Bowie and Muppets.
I'll give an honorable mention here. Cartier, during Watches and Wonders, during any type of release, overhauls their websites to be a scrolling catalog. Now, granted, I don't love the scrolling catalog. I understand it. However, once Watches and Wonders is over, they move that off the main page and you can easily search, easily grab any SKU, any reference, any piece of jewelry, and that is the way to do it if you're going to do it. Make some pomp and circumstance on the website, change it up for a week, change it right back.
That's a good point. Yeah, your website doesn't have to last forever. Adjust as necessary. Okay, so watches. Guys, I'm gonna untrash Romain Jerome because they did do some things right. Now, La Jouperet developed the movement, but Romain Jerome really gave us something fun in 2016 with this Moon Orbiter GMT. First of all, check out these double-hinged telescoping lugs, and it's a full 10 millimeters of adjustment. I actually think they did this better than de Bethune. Now, taking a look at the dial side, you've got a flying tourbillon, a power reserve, and then you've got this retrograding second time zone with a day-night indicator. The case is made with pieces of Apollo 11, and the mass on the rotor is made with pieces of moon dust. I actually dig this thing, and through the miracles of pre-owned, this $120,000 2016 watch is now like 33 grand.
With Romain Jerome's track record, I'm surprised there's not pieces of the Challenger in this.
You know, I'm sorry to say the Challenger or the Columbia was probably their next project before they went out of business. Yeah, but fortunately, this is all DNA of things that were never alive. What else is going on? Well, we've got this unbelievable Ludovic Baloise upside down. This was Baloise's second watch, launched in 2012. And so you can see it is both a retrograde and a jump hour of a very unconventional type. The current hour is the only one correctly assembled up at 12 o'clock. All of the others are split, so you literally have halves of time. It has a green gold dial and a shockingly beautiful handmade movement. Even the case back is freehand engraved because Baloise is essentially a one-man show in Geneva, making these watches 12 to 24 pieces a year at his own pace. That is the life, guys. And it even has a concave side, so when you look at yourself through the side, you're upside down. Okay, Romain Jerome, Ludovic Ballois, and now a really fun independent that figured out what FP Journe could not, which is how do you make a resonance watch look cool? Well, I'm sorry, but it's a very cerebral thing, the FP Journe resonance, and it's not possible to see the coupling of the two balances and escapements. So Journe has trashed this watch as not a true resonance, and I do agree with him.
I agree also.
But the two hairsprings are connected by a breathing and pulsating coupling spring that adds life to what would otherwise be a very intellectual exercise. So I really like this, as well as the high grade of the finishing that's included on both sides of the watch. At steel and 42 millimeters, this 2018 launch is a lot of fun.
Let me have a look at that actually up close, because I do love the way that this watch breathes. If they sold it as a double balance, if they sold it as anything non-resonance, I would be a much bigger fan of this watch than I am. And I'll have to disagree with you. I think the Journe resonance is a beautiful representation of what resonance is.
Well, it's a real resonance. I mean, this is expropriating the name.
This is absolutely appropriating the name. Granted, I understand what you're saying. I do like the idea of seeing the mechanics front side, but there is something that just rubs me so far the wrong way that Armstrong will continue to stand on principle that this is a resonance.
No, this is like Elvis singing like soul music and gospel music. This is taking something someone else created and making it more marketable.
Completely, and you can see that in the pricing. I think we have this listed at $49,950 on our website.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. It is beautifully decorated in a way that the Journe is not. But the Journe is a pure resonance, whereas this is surprise and delight. That's
it is beautifully decorated, I'll definitely give you that.
Okay, guys, have you ever seen a jade dial like this? This is actually a tantalum case and a jade dial and an Andreas Streller perpetual calendar in a 10-piece H. Moser & C Endeavor package. So you have a bidirectionally settable perpetual calendar system that is absolutely brilliant, because on the dial side, all you've got is the stub index and the date indicator. Then you turn it over, blue-gray tantalum case. You don't find many of those in the industry. And then on the back, you've got a 7-day rated movement that actually runs for about 9. And then you've got a diamond capstone on top of a double hairspring balance. How insane is that?
Really cool concave back crystal too, to be conformed to the wrist a little bit more. The really well-designed watch overall. You can see the case is not an afterthought. The back case is not an afterthought. The lug sculpting, the bezel sculpting, and this is all, again, to reiterate, in tantalum. So this case took work.
And the dial was made by a lapidary, which is its own kind of craft. It's a different kind of jade. It's a marbled white and green jade, which is not what we're used to seeing.
And jade actually, this is noted in a couple of FP Journe pieces. White jade is actually remarkably sought after in the quote-unquote jade community, as I understand.
So you could be part of the watch community and the jade community all at once. This is actually my favorite Moser release in years. Finally, we have one that's actually a 5-piece edition. Now, I of course committed blasphemy, because we have an ownership stake in de Bethune and we don't own any part of Romain Jerome, but I do think on this one count, Romain Jerome did a better job with articulated lugs. With this double hinged telescoping design, I think RJ actually one-upped de Bethune, and that will be the first and the last time that ever happens. Because the rest of this 5-piece US market edition of the DB28XP is really cool. You've got a rose microlight engraved dial, you've got an 8.7 millimeter thick titanium case, it's a 43 in terms of diameter, and then you've got this mirror polished barrel bridge cap with twin barrels that cannot be overwound, 1, 2, 3 shock protection springs, and a proprietary patented balance. A lot to love here, and a really easy watch to wear. I wish I could show it to you better. The black polish with the fingerprints on the crystal doesn't show to advantage here, guys. I apologize for that.
You know, the insane amount of black polish that is seen on de Bethune, I think oftentimes is misunderstood. It is remarkable to get this finished on this size plate. You know, we see black polish on chronograph column wheel caps. We see black polish on small bridges. To see a solid, what do we have, a square 3/4 of an inch of black polish?
This is done by polishing with diamond paste. Like if you've got a surface this big, it's got to be done with
and
diamond paste.
And it is ethereally touched. I mean, there's not a mark on this. You know, you have small parts of Greubel Forsey calibers that are done in poly
like
noir.
tiny pieces,
tiny,
regulators,
very
screws.
small. De Bethune has full movements, full main plates, full base plates. It's actually remarkable, the use of poly noir.
Yeah. I think for finish on the table tonight, it's de Bethune. For mechanical ingenuity, it's Ludovic Valois. For the dial, it's going to be the Moser. And for the sheer gee-whiz gadget quality, it's going to be the Romain Jerome. And I think for the iconoclastic quality of pissing off FPGA, it's going to be the Armin Strom. Guys, let us know if you're watching this recorded, which one of these was your favorite. And also let us know in the description below, in the comments below the description, what you think the worst of watches in the Hall of Shame should include. Until then, Tim out, Armand out, and thanks for logging on. Okay, we did all right.